Thank you so much for being here today. Today we have a very special guest. His name is Jimmy Hoyos Pipicanos. Jimmy is an English teacher at the Secretary of Education of the Department of Huila. He has extensive experience in rurality and also with bilingualism like processes and linguistic policies. So I extended Jimmy the invitation to be here with us today. So it's a pleasure to have you here. He holds a BA in language teaching, in English language teaching from Universidad of Quindío, right? Yes, Jimmy?
Tecnológica de Pereira, pero casi.
Tecnológica de Pereira, yes, almost. And he also holds an MA in English language teaching from Universidad Colombiana. So, Jimmy, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And the floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you for the invitation. I will try to share my screen. Let's see if I can right away.
Rural teachers' appropriation of national bilingual policy.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, bueno. So there you have it. Today I'll share a project which was conducted a couple of years ago, which is called Rural Teachers Appropriation of National Bilingual Policies, Voices from the Colombian Periphery. So I'll talk about a little bit about the introduction, then theoretical framework, methodology, findings, and hopefully some conclusions and implications. So let's start. So there you can see a map with some of Colombia's language families, and you can see, well, no, you cannot because it's too small. But you might know that there, of course, in Colombia, we have over 60 indigenous languages. So in the map, you can see the geographical location of these, right? So in Colombia, of course, we have national bilingual policies, but these usually imply or have or have English language as the universal target language and ignore the over 60 indigenous languages that we have. So teachers, of course, as intellectuals that we are, we have resisted and appropriated these so-called bilingual policies so that they work for our students. And there's a lot of that in the literature. Now, when searching for efforts in rural areas, well, that's more complicated. That's more scarce. So that's why the periphery idea, right? So before moving on, I would really appreciate if you could consider and answer the following question, probably two of you. Now, as of now, would you say or do you feel that you are in the Colombian periphery? Why? Why not? So basically, are you in the Colombian periphery? So it's not a rhetorical question, but an actual. Okay, there you have DG, someone I don't know who, but go on.
Yes, good afternoon. Yes, I don't think so because I live like in the center of Colombia. From Bogota, and I lived in Boyacá as well. And nowadays I live in Boyacá in Tunja. So I don't think that is the periphery because it's like the center.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay, I'll go with that. Thank you. Thank you, David, ¿cierto? Bueno, from my perspective, or from the perspective in which I was, when this study was conducted, I would also agree that no, you're not in the Colombian periphery. Now, this, of course, not only refers to a geographical, right, location, but of course, it also has some other connotations. So if you're in Boyacá, let's say let's say that you were born in Boyacá and you live in Boyacá, and then you met, for example, John, and he was born in Bogota and was born and raised in Bogota. He probably could perceive you as in the periphery. But of course, there are different types of peripheries, let's say. Now, the one in which I am referring to in this study refers to rural or remote areas with conditions such as low transportation, lack of resources, or difficult access to technology, for example. So this project was developed in the department of Huila, specifically in the municipality called Colombia, which is like up here, north, right? So actually, this is an actual photo of a colleague, right, which is part of the journey, let's say, to get to the Santa Ana school, which is like over here. So this, of course, is the perspective of people like Didier, who's there, or teachers from these places is very rare in the literature. So that's why, well, in the paper, I argue that, or I say that this situation shows a type of a colonialism in the way that those out of the center will are neglected and their voices remain silent. And this was part of the motivation to actually start this project. So while I keep describing or talking about this, please bear in mind that the perspectives that you'll hear are from teachers working in el municipio de Colombia, Huila, up north, who had to go through challenges like this just to get to work. Our main question, well, the main research question is how do rural elementary school teachers from a colonized, racialized region appropriate national bilingual policies in their teaching practices? And specifically, well, the appropriation embraces both what they do and how they do it. So we have two specific questions, which are what do they believe about national bilingual policies and how do they enact English language lessons. Okay, so take a mental screenshot and let's move on. We have three main theoretical frameworks. First we have coloniality and decoloniality, which have coexisted since the 16th century. Now, in ELT, coloniality reflects not only in the fact that English is promoted as the universal the target language. Everybody should speak English, but also in how English language speakers are positioned as superior. Um, Also, here we have Bonilla, Medina, and Finardi, and they actually consider, and I agree with this idea, that critical race theory, theoretical underpinnings, and decoloniality share, well, similar foundations in the way that racism goes or extrapolates beyond the skin color configuration. So, for example, in the way that how ELT policies homogenize and ignore what the population, I don't know what students, what teachers think, what they want, where they come from. So this is why I talk about racialization and de-racialization and decoloniality in this paper. Also, well, bilingualism in Colombia, expectation versus reality. So bilingualism refers to the idea of being in command of two languages. As I have explained before, in Colombia, it's basically being in command of Spanish and English. So, uh, of course, the expectation is that everybody speaks English, that all teachers will speak and teach this language. But in reality, well, it's for example, it's different uh, because well, the reality is that not everybody learns at the same space, not all teachers are prepared. For example, especially primary school teachers, right? Um, and of course, this hinders that everybody attains the B1 English proficiency level, which they are supposed to have by the end of their secondary education. So of course the expectation is very different from the reality, and this shows the oversimplification of educational stakeholders. And even those attending school face different realities. If because if they are in urban schools, they might have some more resources, they might have some opportunities as compared to rural students, rural teachers, as you will see in a moment. But anyways, teachers are berracos, I would say. So they find ways to make these policies work. And that's where teacher agency comes into play, which refers to the willingness and capacity to act responding to professional values, goals, objectives, knowledges, let's say, depending on where they are. These are also social. Teacher agency also draws not only on what's inside the teacher, but also on what's around. And this also has to do with a temporal triad in regarding the past, present, and future. So where the teacher's trajectory is important, what they want at the moment is important, and how they perceive their long or short term future is important. So all of these aspects shape how teachers think and what they do. So remember that in this study we focus on teachers' beliefs and teachers' pedagogical practices, teachers' teaching practices. And with this, I think I can move on to the methodology. Okay, this is a qualitative case study, and this is the setting. So once you go through, once you, I don't know, if you ever come to this land, once you go from Neiva to Colombia, which is paved, and once you have yeah, if you have a bike, I don't know, you have driven or ridden your bike for over 1 hour and a half. If you have good weather conditions, if not, but it's much more, you'll get here. This is Santa Ana School. And the participants of this study were 4 rural self-contained elementary school teachers. Yes. In the paper, they have some, well, pseudonyms, right? But I asked them if I could use the real names for these presentations, just like to give them more visibility, to give you a better idea of who they are, where they come from. So we have Ricardo, Didier, Maria, Idali, and they have like from 6 to 35 years of experience. They come from both rural areas, such as Maria and Idali, and from urban areas, and they have different degrees. For example, Didier is a P is master is holds a master in PE teaching, while for example, Maria Viela has an administrative education certificate diploma. So yeah, they have different experiences, and they come from different places, and of course have different ideas to offer. So yeah, there they are. Data collection instruments. Well, they answered this questionario único back in 2022 when I was doing my master's degree with actually Professor Carmen Elena Guerrero. You probably have heard or read her. So it was part of a project for her course, right? So they responded this question. Actually, all teachers all primary school teachers were invited, but these four came or decided to accept the invitation. Then we also had interviews. I met with them face to face, with some of them face to face, and with one of them online because of geographical, because of their geographical location. Bueno. Anyways, so as for the data analysis first, I analyzed the questionnaires, and based on the questionnaires, I identify like some questions or like further ideas to explore with them, and then we had the interviews. So we had like two transversal analysis. Okay, and then we get to the findings section. We have three categories. First, we have bilingual policies and teaching realities gap. Eh, I will read one of these or two probably. For example, Ricardo, who is Benito, says, la pregunta era como, what are bilingual policies for you, or how do you understand bilingual policies? And he mentioned it is a program that seeks to improve the teaching of English as a foreign language for students and teachers to learn as a second language. The Ministry of Education has created the National Plan of Bilingualism to optimize the quality of English language teaching in the country. Eh, or, for example, Margarita, who is Maria Biela, says bilingual policies are programs and strategies created by the national government to improve the teaching of the English, the English subject at the national level. So I would like to discuss two ideas here. First, that they perceive themselves as passive actors in this process of bilingualism, let's say. They say it is something that exists and that we have to do. Okay, for example, some key strategies created by the national government, yes, for them to just do. So there's another one that I would like to read. Bueno, aquí, sorry, I have something. I can minimize. Anyways, okay, yes, I'll read this one. This says, it is the teaching of a second language, which is the estadounidense, dijo el participante. In our territory, since the national government wants a second language to be taught through the Ministry of Education. English is important in these modern days so that we all have a universal language that we can teach and speak. So the idea that English is important, that English opens doors, this discourse has been passed on to these teachers, right? And the idea that English language, that bilingualism is basically English language teaching is also part of their current discourse. So they did not mention any indigenous languages. They didn't like consider the idea, at least in the moments in which we shared and discussed, well, these ideas. Okay. But of course, they also understand that there is a gap between what's on the paper and what's in front of them. For example, Didier says, we do not have didactic or materials and are unprepared to teach the English language. We are teachers specialized in one subject who have to make ends meet to orient a good English class. I cannot plan for every grade because I would spend every day until late at night planning for 6 grades at my school. Thus, I only plan for the third and fifth grades. Also, we, rural teachers, have to motivate students a lot because the parents' low schooling level does not help much in English language teaching. And Ricardo shares similar ideas, and the underlying idea here is that, well, efforts are insufficient. For example, I wrote something about teachers going to this experience in India so that they could practice and enhance their English proficiency. The 25 teachers were part of this program, but only in 2018, the national government had over 100 rural school teachers. So basically, efforts are insufficient. Yes, and I also write here like disembodied policies in the way that mm, regardless if you hold a PE certificate or diploma as Didier, or regardless if you are, I don't know, if you have a major in science or any other language, if you work in primary education, you have to teach English. And then bilingual policies do not really consider this in mind, or if they do, well, they just passed on the responsibility to the teachers. Like, okay, that's what you have to do. See to it, right? Uh, yeah, these are the main ideas in this part. Policies, courses, and teacher identity, interconnectedness. This is the second category. So this course is ELT is of utmost importance for Colombians. Here we have the testimony by Elvira, who is Idali. She said, students need that we speak. Ella dijo, utilizó la palabra manejemos English. They sometimes ask, teacher, how do you say this or that? And I honestly do not know, not even the basic things. I am conscious that the elementary school teachers, need to speak more English and need more training, but it also depends on us because there are things that we can learn by ourselves. It was embarrassing that you, official English language teachers, discovered that we do not even know the alphabet. So from this, we can observe that first, well, we can reaffirm that first, she has taken on the responsibility of being an English language teacher despite, well, not being prepared or not having received appropriate education to do that. Yes. Also, Ida Lee is one of the older teachers. So right now, all careers, all majors have to, all students at the university level have to attain certain English proficiency level, and they present a test and they supposedly know something. Bear in mind that Ida Lee is from an older generation, so she doesn't even have she didn't even have to do that back when she was in university. So all of the efforts that she makes uh, come from, I don't know, from her own motivation, from her own autonomy. But despite all of this, she feels embarrassed. Yes, about the fact that that she's not well prepared. I mean, from her perspective, right? Um, so there's this ideological transmutation. Uh, Anyways, but for example, here we have Arnulfo, que es Ricardo, and he mentions they do not think about teachers, they do not think about how teachers are hired. They say you are capable of teaching all subjects, so one becomes an expert because we are all pedagogues and know how to plan a class, how to teach one. One must learn English, but above all, one becomes an artist to create a class, search for a topic, study and teach it, and find the best way for students to develop knowledge. So from my analysis, right, this shows like a different transmutation. While Idali feels embarrassed and feels that she is not doing enough, Arnulfo, que es Didier, perdón, no Benito, feels or takes it as a chance, as an opportunity to showcase his, I don't know, his pedagogy skills. Yes, to prove himself and his students that he can do it. So we have like different outcomes. But anyways, the influence of national bilingual policies is clear in both examples. And if you observe the figure, they are actually the one who make these policies work. from one way on another. Even if in the case of recent teachers, this is forced on, well, yeah, on them. In our case, because I think that we're all are or will be English language teachers, well, we don't suffer from this. But anyways, si aquí estuviera un profe de, I don't know, español sociales, would probably connect with this idea, that ELT is forced on them, or will be forced on them if they become primary school teachers. Anyways, and our final category well, in the paper is a little bit more extensive. I try to summarize it here in this. Says eclectic and collaborative teachers. So before it, I mentioned the word berracos because imagine like imagine yourselves doing something that you're not prepared to do, but they do it, and they do it to a certain well, they do it effectively, I would say, because students do learn from one way or another. So I'll talk about didactic materials because they mention booklets such as Cheito, Leito, which have a, well, the word pronunciation and the word in Spanish. They use illustrations, they use flashcards, puzzles, drawings, videos. They use as many resources as they can to fulfill or to fulfill their task as English language teachers. In their ideas, well, these ideas, of course, come from somewhere, and they have some didactic principles, which are the syllabus, el proyecto educativo institucional, basic learning rights, and of course, guidelines from the Ministry of Education. Mm, and as for teaching approaches, aquí aparece CLIL because, for example, Benito, who is Ricardo, mentioned how he transversally taught English. For example, when he was teaching art, and he would ask students like, ¿Qué color es este? And students would say, okay, that's yellow, amarillo, and so on. Or, for example, grammar translation with creo que era María Biela, who mentioned that she used the book Cheito. Y creo que in the paper hay un recorte de eso. So they have the expression or the word, they have the pronunciation, and they have the word in Spanish. So they use different teaching approaches to make ends meet, and of course that align with their teaching trajectory. And yeah, to finish, teaching backgrounds. For example, if you read or if you read the paper, el profesor de educación física, who is Didier, he used a lot of kinesthetic activities. Idali recorded to stories because she likes stories. To well, yeah, to do the job. So, anyways, that's why the category is called eclectic, right? Because they use everything that is in their power and in their hands to accomplish or to do a task, which is teaching rural students how to speak in English. What for? Well, because it's part of the syllabus, because it's a discourse that we all follow or have to follow. As for collaborative, teacher Idali, actually in Spanish, she wrote sort of un cuento. And I don't know, to hear something. John, ¿me ayudarías a leer esto? Es como un diálogo.
Yeah, sure. It's in English, right?
Yes. So I'll start and then you go. ¿Listo?
Okay.
Says, one day, due to exigencies by the government, no. Sorry. Okay. One day, due to exigencies by the government, the syllabus had to be modified. And whoa, 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 what a surprise when she talked with one of her colleagues.
Hi, teacher Elvira. Do you know that the English syllabus must be modified?
How come, teacher Luciérnaga?
Yes, teacher Elvira.
OMG, I had my notebook organized with the little things we covered in class, but we will come up with something. Thank God I have my brother-in-law who helps me when I do not know how to pronounce something. I have needed him many times.
So despite everything, she set her mind to designing materials with several colleagues, which was very helpful.
Okay, thank you, John. Well, and then she adds we took the English topics for elementary school, then we revised them one by one and created worksheets for each grade. Every teacher is in charge of one grade, and we agreed to make changes if needed. So that's why it's eclectic and collaborative teachers. Yes, because they work together and they look for help. Even imagine, like for example, Idali asked her brother-in-law for help to accomplish the task. So this is not like to romanticize, right? Like the teacher's efforts, because they shouldn't go through all of this. They shouldn't have to go through such trials and tribulations, but they do so, and of course it's important. Of course, it's important to show what they do and how they do it, right? So to wrap up, it's basically, yeah, do use as many things as you can, as you have, and work collaboratively, which aligns with the idea that communities of practice are essential for teacher development, right? And I don't know, I forgot something. Anyways, so these are basically the three main categories. And now, okay, conclusions and implications from the ideas presented, from the analysis that well, from part of the analysis that I have shared here, because I probably forgot many things. Eh, the question was, se me olvidó la pregunta. The question was, how do rural elementary school teachers from a colonized, racialized region appropriate national bilingual policies in their teaching practices? Well, how they use different materials, different approaches to do the job. They work collaboratively, and this and as for the specific questions, as for example, what do they believe about national bilingual policies? They believe that bilingual policies imply English language learning, or ELT. They believe that it's their responsibility, despite all the lacks, despite all the lack of support or lack of resources that they endure. They have appropriated, they have taken on the responsibility of teaching English in wherever context they are. So it is actually like carrying a huge weight on their shoulders. Mm, what can we probably learn from this? Well, first that EFL instruction for primary school teachers is needed, but I would argue that this is insufficient, because being an English language teacher is a matter of, it is a lifetime journey, right? So it's not like a short or even long term, mm, I don't know, job or task. Uh, Communities of practice are important, right? As for example, the teachers working together, creating these spaces. That's why it's so valuable that John opens such spaces for us to at least share ideas. Ideally, primary education, well, requires specialized EFL teachers, and this has been also proposed in other papers, but it sounds kind of utopic, because, like for example, as like these days, en mi colegio actual van a liberar, let's say, 3, 4 teachers. So probably that's not gonna happen. But so what can we do? So this is the idea that I want to highlight, considering that I think that most of you guys are, I don't know if you, John, are they pre-service teachers or in-service teachers?
No, Jimmy, they are pre-service teachers. Most of them, they
Okay,
are in 8 semester, 7 semester, in those like semesters.
okay, so thank you, John. So ELT education programs should enhance future language teachers' awareness regarding rural ELT. So let me ask, okay, if there is, si alguien aquí, if there is someone who has considered teaching English, right, at a rural school or in rurality, can you please, I don't know, show a hand? Okay, Nair, Nair, Nair Camila. Okay. I am really happy to see at least two pre-service teachers. Would you mind sharing like what motivates you? One of you three, would you mind sharing why or what motivates you? Yeah, to work at a rural. Uh-huh.
Um, okay, from my own opinion, I can say that in those spaces, kids need a lot of needs, not just for to learn a language, but also for maybe to hear them, to encourage them to study, because some of them have to work. Then I would like, and also I love the how can I say the I mean the spirit that they have, those kids. Then that's my reason that I would like to work with them too.
Uh, Paola, thank you for sharing, Paola. Uh, were you born at a rural or at an urban area? Sorry, a rural or urban area?
I was born in a urban area. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. I don't know, maybe one, Sol or maybe Camila, would you mind sharing?
Well, in my case, I come from a rural area, so I have lived the experience of what the process of learning English is like. Probably because I'm engaged with the part of contextualized materials, so I think it is a great opportunity to abord or to address that part.
Thank you, Sol. And yeah, let's take the chance. Nair?
Okay, good afternoon. Well,
That's me.
in my case, it's because, well, I study in an urban area, but in a small town. So when I was in high school, I had a lot of friends from the rural area, so I could understand the necessities that they face. Also because no, actually, currently I'm developing investigation about rural education and the challenges that teachers face in that places. So for that reason, I consider that I would like to work in a rural area.
Thank you. Thank you very much, you three. It's really refreshing to hear that three of you guys, I don't know, out of 20, I don't know how many of you guys are over there, but at least three of you have considered or are considering working in reality because that usually doesn't happen because teachers, pre-service teachers usually imagine themselves traveling the world or, well, que no está mal, of course, it's okay, but you probably could more than, I mean, yeah, you could probably end up working in rurality, and you can actually promote or foster a huge or positive impact in your students. If you of course consider everything that you guys said. And actually I asked you if you guys were from rural areas because the teachers working in rural areas usually come from rural areas, right? And that's why I believe that it's really important that ELT education programs enhance future language teachers awareness regarding rural ELT, at least as a possibility. And of course, that they consider that rural ELT is very different from ELT in general. Because, yeah, anyways, se me han olvidado varias cosas, but anyways, these are some of the references. If you guys want to read, a mí se me olvidaron muchas cosas, right? But I kindly invite you to scan this code. Permite como a las 50 primeras personas entrar al paper completo, porque ese journal pues toca pagar y no muy caro. Entonces, if you want, you can scan the code, and yeah, thank you for listening to me. And thank you,
Jimmy,
John, for inviting me.
no, to you for accepting the invitation. Just a comment. Just in case they cannot like get the article by using the RQ code, I have the article. So if any of you wants the article, just send me a message, write me to the email so I can send it to you. The article is very interesting. It's like 20 pages, but it fully like explains the issues addressed in the talk. So it's very, very enriching to read this guy. So Jimmy, thank you so much for accepting the invitation. We still have some time for questions. So guys, if any of you has any question, any comment, any concern, any tough idea and the likes, just simply just jump in and make the question or the comment or etc. that you may have. Professor Aleida Ariza. So Professor, welcome. The floor is all yours.
Can you hear me well?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Fine.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you, Jimmy, for coming to this session and for bringing very important issues for us to reflect, especially in a teacher education program at a public university. I want to probably highlight two aspects that I noticed that were very, very powerful in this presentation, and that tracks me back to Carmen Elena's positioning about bilingualism. One of the things that is very important for us to consider, especially people who are students who are thinking about developing research in this area, is this deficit paradigm in terms of the teacher's knowledge. Yeah, most of the times when we have these policies, and that was probably shown in your findings, Jimmy, is that the policies are not connected whatsoever to the professional pedagogical knowledge teachers might have. So the policy is conceived from a deficit paradigm, not what we have as teachers, but what we lack. And that is something very important, because I think that we should concentrate in our strengths, as professionals in our area, much more since that policy that was issued, in which the Board of Education allowed people who speak the language and who are professional in other areas to come into our business of becoming teachers, which is totally different. Our strength is the pedagogical knowledge, and that's the reason why we are having these, trying to strengthen our licenciaturas, our teacher education programs. And the other important topic that emerged here from what you shared with us today is that we can see, we as colleagues here, we can see how incoherent is how incoherent is the Board of Education, the men, in what they plan, what they implement, but what they test. If you notice some issues that are very relevant, and if you are going to, and if you plan to work for the government, as we do, because we are anyhow teachers at a university, but it is a public place, you are going to notice how the policy indicates certain things which are not achievable, because the policy makers know that with what they give us, we cannot achieve that policy. But with all this against odds, they evaluate teachers in their English level, and they also evaluate students in their English level, just to show what they already know, that they don't have the level or the competences they are supposed to have, because the policy, instead of helping them to reach certain levels of competency, what gives them is more like anxiety and workload to try to survive with something that is not probably their um, their professional area. And the other important thing is that it was very beautiful and it's very special because it's about the periphery, and is how resourceful we become when we have to, when we
Mhm.
fight in these places where you don't have anything, not even the specific disciplinary knowledge for you to teach. I would be totally scared, for example, to be in front of a group teaching, I don't know, something related to computers, because that's not my field. That's not my field. My field is totally different. It's linguistics. So they, even though they don't have this disciplinary knowledge, they face the situation. They try to resort to different sources for them to try to accomplish what they have to. So I think that is very enlightening in the sense of providing us a lot of reflections, not only for our students, but also for we are, role models for and researchers in the area of um, EIL. So thank you. That's my comment.
Thank you. I just want to say, yeah, like basically, Professor Carmen Elena and Professor Quintero have a beautiful paper, and I think the title goes something like primary school teachers, I don't know, like the passive agents who make bilingual policies work. This paper is basically like an extension of that, but from what teachers are doing in another context, and probably well with different ideas and paths. So yeah, that's like the value maybe of this. I think we have like a question from Ale. Ah, no, I thought it was Aleida. Jacob.
Jacob. Yes, we have Jacob. So Jacob, go ahead.
Oh, hi, good afternoon. I don't know if you can listen to me well. Well, I
Fantastic.
have a question maybe related with the final part of your presentation that you were asking about um the intentions to work in the rural areas. Maybe I think it evidenced that well, most of the students don't want to work in a rural area. And I was thinking maybe, do you consider that this is an issue that the well education policies and well the education process in the university should address in the whole process of becoming a teacher, um well yeah, I mean, mostly that if you consider that is an issue, and maybe that if there is the institutions are failing to motivate and encourage and prepare teachers for rural context.
Okay, my answer is very simple, which is yes, I do. I do think that teaching education programs are failing in at least bringing the idea of rural ELT into the programs, in bringing this idea in their pre-service teachers. Because if, for example, in my experience, rural ELT was probably never mentioned, or if it did, maybe it was actually mentioned. I don't remember. So, teaching education programs and professors working at universities have played a huge role in, of course, they will, I mean, nothing will prepare you to work at a rural school, but you could probably get or acquire more tools to do this job, um, if you have to or if you decide to do it. For example, I don't know how you guys feel about what I'll say, but working in reality teaches you that English is only the means to do something. English language learning like acquires a lesser priority in your teaching practices. So to wrap up, I do think that it's an issue, and I do think that universities and teaching education programs and professors can do more to at least bring the idea, bring the topic rural ELT into discussion, as John is doing right now. So thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Guys, we still have some time, so if any of you wants to make a question, wants to say something else, the floor is all yours. You can jump in, you can write via the chat, you can open the mic, the microphone, it's fine. If anyone has a comment or a question, maybe. I think we don't have more questions. Jimmy, thank you so much for accepting this invitation.
Sí, profe, yo
David,
tengo
David.
una.
Okay, go ahead. Excuse me, my friend.
Eh,
Go ahead.
no, thank you. Maybe I was thinking that how can we promote like per-service teachers or teachers that will be like in service, um, like to work in a rural area? So maybe
Like, how
that
can
would
we
be the
what? How
question.
can we motivate pre-service teachers?
Yeah, how we can motivate them.
Mm. Okay. This just came to my mind. I think that teaching education programs could have as the same way that you have primary education practicum and secondary education practicum, you could have rural education practicum. I don't know. Why not? Go to a rural school nearby your city and do the job. So teaching education programs, how can teaching education programs motivate pre-service teachers to work at a rural school? Well, show them the possibilities, show them how nice it can be and how nice people, communities are, and how open they are to what you propose to them. Yeah, do you have a final question from Paola?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes,
Paola, go ahead.
I would like to know if you know what happened if we as teachers don't follow some educational policies.
Mm, interesting question. So if there is any like consequence, maybe you say, if there is like something that happens, no?
Yeah, I mean, not in terms of teaching or the students' process, but in terms of teachers, maybe
Uh,
evaluation or
okay. At the state level.
uh-huh.
Okay. So from my experience, working in rurality, you become almighty. So you can do probably as much as you want to do. You can propose as many things as you want. Usually, the community, students, and the principals, I don't know, coordinators have your back. Yes, because of course they live in the same reality as you, and they know that students need more than just learning English. So if you work in reality, nothing will happen. I mean, they could actually praise you. For example, when I was working, I usually participated more in this type of spaces because the principal didn't have any issue. I said, like, profe, tengo a Socopim, Barranquilla, Medellín, 3 días. Hágale, vaya. Profe, tengo que ir a Neiva. Hágale, vaya. Profe, me gustaría hacer este proyecto. Hágale, tan, tan. So nothing will happen to you. On the contrary, you will gain a lot of insights. Your students will probably remember you, gain something of you, whatever, um, from deviating from the path that others have set for you. So I encourage you to do it if you're in reality, and if you feel the support. I mean, a friendly working environment. But yeah, be a rebel. Do what you have to do.
Jimmy, we also have a comment by Professor Aleida, and she says, we do have some rural schools where practicums are developed. For example, in Genesano. So sometimes here the students, for example, they have like a chance to go to these like rural settings, like to go to these places. But as Jimmy said, I think that still there is like a lot to do, no?
Yeah, because I mean, like, do you have one school? Do you rarely, what, like two, three students go through, two, three pre-service teachers go there? So ideally, I don't know, a whole semester, look for rural schools and have everybody doing the rural practicum just for them to have the idea. Anyways,
I think Professor Aleide is writing something in the chat. So guys, in the time being, if we have any other question, any other comment, you can simply jump in, so it's fine. Maybe another comment, maybe another question.
I kindly invite you to read the paper. I forgot many things. I don't know because yeah, it was written a couple of years ago, and yeah, I forgot many things. So yeah, take a look. Maybe you'll find some more ideas.
Jimmy, I have a comment and a question. It's something very personal. Uh, Professor Carmen Elena Guerrero, she wrote those articles like 17, 16 years ago. She wrote many articles on critical discourse analysis, on bilingualism, and these issues that are very interconnected. And since then, not many things have like changed drastically, you know? So how do you see, for example, like the future, like maybe in 10, maybe in 15 years? Do you think that with this new like wave of bilingualism, with these new like ideas of like languages of bilingualism, of this like resignification of indigenous like peoples, like communities, do you see maybe any change in the near future or not really? Or do you think that still we need like to, let's say, change the policies, like the practices, even the approaches, even the way we are like, let's say, working on teacher education programs, because nowadays we are going to have even a new language policy that is called like intercultural policy and bilingualism, something like that. So this is like about to come out. So how do you like envision the things?
I foresee I foresee positive changes among future in-service teachers. For example, I was honestly very happy to see that at least three of your pre-service teachers are interested in the idea of working in rurality. So I see, yeah, positive changes in that aspect. Also because every day I think that we're more open to new ideas. Every day we're more open to embrace new methodologies. Yes, and to challenge the idea that we all have to speak English and that we all and the idea that English will open doors and blah 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 is more often discussed and challenged. So I see a positive change in that aspect. As okay, educational policies. El año pasado we had like this encuentro departamental de bilingüismo, and they share like some initiatives that they are taking or planning, in which indigenous languages play a more important role, in which communities play a more important role. So I think that's also changing a little bit, but uh, from theory to practice, or from paper to reality, that might be more challenging. That might take more years. But I think that will eventually take place because of people like the three pre-service teachers who just showed interest, and because of spaces and discussions like this. Yeah,
Jimmy,
because
thank you so much. Excuse me.
no, just like to give you I no longer work in rurality, but I miss working in rurality, rurality.
Mm.
Yes, because working there is highly bueno. So yeah,
Thank you so much for the answer. And Jimmy, thank you so much for giving us some of your time. So let me stop the recording.
thank you.